Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking an absolute masterclass in scale. We're going to break down the mechanics of the Walmart empire and see exactly how it evolved from a single, humble rural store into the undisputed global giant of retail. I mean, think about it for a second. What if I told you that one small discount store in rural Arkansas grew into the world's largest retailer? Today, this single enterprise serves millions of customers every single day. It's an operation so vast, it literally has its own gravitational pull. Right at the center of this incredible expansion is our protagonist, Sam Walton. Who was the man who could look at a dusty, empty plot of land in a tiny American town and see a global empire? How did his personal mindset fundamentally shape the DNA of this massive business? And honestly, more importantly, how did they actually pull this off? By the end of this explainer, you're going to discover the exact business strategies, the logistical secrets, and the incredible journey behind Walmart's rise. We're going to decode the specific blueprint that made this unprecedented growth possible. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The man behind the retail, Sam Walton's early life. So Sam Walton's entrepreneurial mindset, it definitely wasn't built overnight. His deep-seated work ethic really started back in his childhood, but it was his early retail experience running a franchised Ben Franklin variety store that completely sparked his vision. He spent years just observing and learning, realizing that retail was really about serving people, not just pushing products. Every early success, and even the painful lesson of losing his very first store lease, became a masterclass that perfectly positioned him to disrupt the entire industry. Section 2. Birth of a Giant. Opening in 1962. Here's where things get super interesting. While traditional competitors were obsessively focused on urban centers and high-margin promotional pricing, Walmart looked entirely the other way. They targeted small, underserved towns. They introduced this whole concept of everyday low prices, completely abandoning the reliance on flashy temporary sales events. This wasn't just a slightly different location strategy, it was a total inversion of the traditional retail playbook. Section 3. The growth engine, fueling expansion. Now, expanding into all those scattered, underserved towns required an absolute machine of an operation. It starts with bulk purchasing, buying massive quantities directly from manufacturers at super steep discounts. Then, that product moves through highly centralized logistics. They were pioneering systems like cross-docking, where products are transferred directly from inbound to outbound trucks. That ensures stores are stocked perfectly on time. All of this leads to blazing fast inventory turnover. Products literally fly off the shelves and are immediately replaced. It's a perfect, self-sustaining loop of incredibly low operating costs. Moving right along to Section 4, Secrets of Low Prices, Beating Competitors. You might be wondering, how did a small-town store undercut every established competitor out there? Well, the secret weapon is economies of scale. And this brilliantly illustrates that concept. By definition, economies of scale is a proportionate saving in costs gained by an increased level of production or bulk purchasing. Basically, as Walmart grew, they didn't just get bigger, they actually got cheaper to run. They leveraged their massive size to demand lower costs from suppliers and built these massive distribution centers to centralize shipping. So every single new store they opened actually helped lower the prices for all the other stores. But, economies of scale isn't just some cold, abstract business concept you read about in a textbook. Because of these ruthless efficiencies, Walmart consistently offers lower prices, which translates directly to the massive stakes of serving millions of customers every single day. We are talking about millions of everyday people relying on that exact operational efficiency to afford their daily lives. Section 5. The Walton Playbook. Leadership Style. So, the crucial point here is that a machine this big doesn't run without a soul. Sam Walton didn't lead from some distant, disconnected boardroom. For him, humility was paramount. He was actually famous for hopping into his own little prop plan to conduct unannounced store visits all across the country. And he wasn't there to micromanage. He was there to listen, to the customers and to the associates walking the aisles. This incredibly hands-on, deeply engaged leadership style completely shaped Walmart's culture from the top down, ensuring they never really lost those small-town roots. It is absolutely one of the greatest success stories in the history of business. But as we look at the landscape today, we're left with a final provocative question. Can the Walton way survive Amazon and the tech revolution? The retail world is changing faster than ever. So what happens when a physical giant goes to war with a digital giant? In part 2 of this explainer, we are going to dive right into Walmart's massive technology advantage, their ongoing international expansion, and the absolute biggest modern business challenges they face today, as well as the business lessons every entrepreneur can learn from their next chapter. You really won't want to miss it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the explainer. Today, we're cutting through the noise and breaking down some seriously complex business mechanics into strategies that you can actually understand and use. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today because we're looking at a literal titan of industry. We are talking about the Giant's Playbook, deconstructing Walmart's strategy. Seriously, think about it. How does a single humble discount store in Arkansas transform into a massive global economic force that shapes how we buy, well, practically everything? It's a wildly fascinating story of precision, scale, and continuous evolution. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll uncover their hidden supply chain. Second, their digital evolution. Third, the clash of the titans in the Amazon rivalry. Fourth, modern retail challenges. Fifth, the entrepreneur's playbook, where we're going to pull out some truly actionable lessons for you. And finally, the future of Walmart. Now, before we get into the heavy mechanics of today, we really have to recognize where this all started. Sam Walton had a very specific, relentless vision: offer everyday low prices and unparalleled customer value. That single philosophy drove explosive, rapid growth in those early days. But here's the secret. You don't become the world's most powerful retail empire just by wanting to sell things cheaply. You have to build an invisible engine capable of supporting that massive, massive scale. And that requires a modern strategy, unlike anything the world had ever seen before. Which brings us perfectly to pillar number 1. The hidden supply chain. This is the logistical masterpiece behind those everyday low prices. You see, while the public just sees the brightly lit aisles and the yellow smiley faces, the real magic, their absolute biggest competitive advantage, is what happens long before a product ever hits the shelf. Now, what's really interesting here is the specific tactical maneuver called cross-docking. It's a logistical practice where materials are unloaded from an incoming truck and then immediately loaded onto outbound trucks with zero storage time in between. Just think about the high-stakes choreography happening here. Traditional retail pays massive overhead to store goods in giant warehouses for weeks on end. But by perfecting cross-docking, Walmart essentially treats their distribution centers as highly orchestrated transit hubs instead of storage units. They completely eliminate those warehousing delays and costs, and then they pass those savings directly to the consumer. Let's look at the 4 steps of how this flows so seamlessly together. Imagine a single bottle of shampoo, right? It starts with step 1, data-driven forecasting. Walmart systems are constantly analyzing weather patterns, local events, historical data, all to predict exactly when a specific town will need that exact shampoo. Step 2, the order hits a strategically placed regional distribution center. Then, step 3, precision inventory tech kicks in. They're using advanced routing algorithms to pinpoint exactly where that item goes in the facility. Finally, step 4, efficient transportation. Walmart's legendary private fleet of trucks operates on these meticulously planned routes to absolutely maximize fuel and time. That bottle of shampoo never sits idle. It's in constant, purposeful motion. But as we know, a great physical supply chain just isn't enough anymore. And that leads us right into section 2, digital evolution, adapting to a changing retail landscape. There was a super crucial turning point where Walmart fully recognized that their sheer physical dominance alone wouldn't protect them from the digital era. They had to evolve, or literally risk becoming a dinosaur. Let's track this and see how it builds across the decades. Look at the 1980s. Walmart was out there pioneering barcode systems when their competitors were still using manual price tags. That gave them real-time sales data. By the 1990s, they leveraged that head start into advanced data analytics, building one of the largest private databases in the entire world. Then, as we hit the 2000s, they begin their e-commerce integration, slowly blending the physical and digital worlds. Jump to 2020, they launched Walmart Plus to offer subscription-based convenience. And now, here in 2024, they are rolling out next-gen AI and automation. The takeaway here? This wasn't a sudden panic pivot. This was a highly methodical, decades-long evolution to stay right at the cutting edge. Up next is section 3, the Amazon rivalry, the clash of the retail titans. Of course, that digital evolution we just talked about was massively accelerated by a very specific foil. It is honestly impossible to talk about modern retail dominance without looking at this dramatic tension between 2 completely different paths to market supremacy. On one side, you have Walmart. Their undeniable strength is physical store dominance. I mean, over 90% of the US population lives within just 10 miles of a Walmart store. They leverage this unbelievable physical footprint and those lowest pricing models to win the customer. But on the other side, you have Amazon, whose entire foundation is online retail dominance and extreme delivery convenience. It's fascinating because Walmart had to learn how to deliver quickly, while Amazon literally had to buy Whole Foods and build out physical infrastructure just to get closer to the customer. Now, we aren't here to declare a permanent winner. Both models are brilliant, they're incredibly powerful, and highly effective. They are just utilizing completely opposing gravity to pull the exact same consumer into their orbit. Let's move on to Section 4, Modern Retail Challenges. Navigating hurdles when the market shifts. Let's humanize the giant for a second. Even a colossal corporation with seemingly infinite resources faces serious reality checks and ongoing struggles every single day. Just take a look at these specific challenges they're constantly juggling. First, changing shopping habits. Consumers are fickle, right? We want things faster, cheaper, and entirely on our own terms. Second, relentless new competition. It is not just Amazon they're fighting. It's international discount giants like Aldi or fast fashion e-commerce brands completely undercutting them. Third, complex labor issues. When you employ literally millions of people, managing wages, benefits, and workforce morale is a monumental daily operational hurdle. Fourth, rising sustainability demands. Consumers and governments alike are demanding greener practices, which requires massively expensive overhauls of logistics. And fifth, global expansion hurdles. Because what works perfectly in Arkansas doesn't always translate to Germany, Japan, or Brazil. Walmart has to continuously adapt to these real-world contexts just to stay relevant. And this brings us right to Section 5, the Entrepreneur's Playbook, actionable lessons for your own business. So why does understanding a multi-billion-dollar corporate journey actually matter for your individual entrepreneurial path? Well, because scale is really just the multiplication of fundamental habits. So the crucial point here is distilling their massive playbook into these 6 actionable pieces of advice. First, focus deeply on customer value. Walmart never, ever forgot that their primary job is to save the customer money. Second, ruthlessly control costs. If you can shave a tiny fraction of a cent off your packaging, do it because over time it compounds. Third, build incredibly efficient systems. Cross-stocking isn't just for big box stores. Ask yourself, how can you make your own workflow perfectly seamless? Fourth, think long-term always. Never sacrifice a 10-year relationship for a one-day profit. Fifth, innovate continuously. Just remember that barcode to AI timeline. And sixth, scale carefully. Make absolutely sure your hidden engine works perfectly before you hit the gas pedal. Because here is the undeniable truth. Success wasn't built overnight. It required decades of disciplined leadership and operational excellence. It is so incredibly easy to look at a titan today and assume their dominance was just inevitable. But it wasn't. It is the deliberate result of relentless customer focus and pure operational discipline, compounding day after day, year after year, decade after decade. Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, the future of Walmart. What actually comes next for the retail giant? So where does a company that has seemingly conquered the world go next? Let's look to the horizon with a grounded, realistic tone based entirely on the data they're showing us today. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how they plan to shape their next decade. Expanded AI in retail operations, meaning they're predicting not just what you want, but exactly when you'll run out of it. Advanced warehouse automation, relying on robotics to sort items way faster than humanly possible. Blended online shopping experiences, where the physical store you walk into is essentially an incredibly efficient micro-fulfillment center for your online orders. Strategic international growth in emerging markets, and aggressive sustainability initiatives aiming for absolute zero emissions. Notice they aren't making wild, unrealistic sci-fi predictions here. They are simply taking their absolute core competency, efficiency, and applying the most advanced tools available to it. Which leaves us with this final, vital question to think about today. What customer problem will you solve next? Walmart solved the problem of access to affordable goods by building the world's greatest supply chain. Every single great business starts by identifying a real friction point in the customer's life and engineering an incredibly efficient, continuously improving system to eliminate it. The playbook is right in front of you. Now it's your turn to execute. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to see what you build.